BRICS and the end of dollar dominance? For decades, the US dollar has been more than a currency. It has been the backbone of the global financial order. From trade settlements to central bank reserves, the dollar is the lifeblood of globalization. But in recent years, one question has grown louder. Is the dollar's absolute power fading? At the center of this debate is BRICS, originally Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, now expanded to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the UAE, and Indonesia, with Saudi Arabia still undecided. Together, these nations account for nearly half the world's population, more than a quarter of global GDP, and around 40% of oil output. The scale is massive, but scale alone does not automatically translate into monetary power. Reality first. As of 2025, the dollar still makes up about 58% of global foreign exchange reserves, nearly 60% of international payments, and features in 88% of all currency trades worldwide. By contrast, the Chinese RMB accounts for just around 3% of payments and 2% of reserves. The dollar remains the central pillar, but look closely, and the edges of that pillar are slowly wearing down. BRICS was born out of frustration. The sense that Western institutions like the IMF and World Bank imposed rules designed by the developed world. After the 2008 financial crisis, that frustration deepened. The bloc's vision is to create an alternative order where trade and development no longer have to flow through the dollar. The rhetoric is bold. Talk of a common BRICS currency, or at least a major expansion of local currency trade. In practice, this often means bilateral deals. Russia and China settling in RMB, India and Russia experimenting with rupee payments, Brazil and China opening RMB clearing banks. To challenge the dollar, you need infrastructure. BRICS is building its pipelines. CIPS, China's RMB payment system, processed about $24 trillion in 2024. A big number, but still a fraction of America's CIPS system, which moves $1.8 trillion every single day. Currency swap lines like the 50 billion RMB swap between China and Saudi Arabia create buffers for yuan-denominated trade. mBridge, a multi-CBDC project, now counts Saudi Arabia as a full participant. The goal: connect central banks directly, bypassing SWIFT. The pipes are there. The real question: is there enough trust for value to flow through them? Trust remains the bottleneck. The renminbi is not fully convertible. China still imposes capital controls. Its markets are less transparent, and its legal system less predictable than America's. That is why, despite growing usage in payments, RMB remains just 2% of global reserves. You can build pipelines, but if people don't trust the water, they won't drink. If BRICS is expanding its reach, the United States is not standing still. Washington still holds irreplaceable advantages: the deepest capital markets, U.S. Treasuries as the ultimate safe haven, and a global network of allies. In the short term, the U.S. is reinforcing alliances with Europe, Japan, and Australia, and using the dollar as a weapon of sanctions. Yet here lies the paradox. Every time Washington uses the dollar to punish, more countries gain motivation to reduce their dependence on it. In the long term, the U.S. is exploring options like a digital dollar and upgrading its payment systems to preserve speed and reliability. But political polarization often slows progress. Meanwhile, China has already pulled ahead in renewable energy and digital financial infrastructure. If Washington does not adapt fast enough, the balance may gradually tilt toward BRICS. In other words, the U.S. is both the guardian of today's order and, unintentionally, the driver pushing BRICS to build a new one. Instead of betting fully on the RMB, many BRICS central banks are turning back to gold. Since 2022, central banks have purchased more than 1,000 tons of gold annually. In just the first quarter of 2025, another 244 tons were added. Gold yields no interest, but it carries no political strings. It cannot replace the dollar, but it quietly reduces reliance on it. So where does this leave us? 3 scenarios stand out. Slow diffusion. The yuan expands in regional trade, but the dollar remains the global reserve king. A dual-core world. The globe splits into 2 rivers, one anchored in the dollar, the other in the yuan. The West stays dollar-centric, while the global South experiments more with RMB. A multipolar order. The boldest outcome, where not just RMB but also gold, lithium, or even data become anchors of regional currencies. In this future, no single hegemon dominates. Does BRICS mark the end of dollar dominance? Not today, not tomorrow. The dollar's foundation, deep markets, abundant liquidity, legal stability, remains unmatched. But BRICS is steadily eroding the system's edges, building new payment rails, hoarding gold, and creating alternatives step by step. This is not the sudden collapse of an empire. It is the slow erosion of absolute power. The dollar will remain central but no longer untouchable. And that shift from monopoly to shared power is the real story of our time.